There seems to be some good news on the horizon. Coming Monday, that would be tomorrow. That's if you watch this on the day it comes out, Sunday. Tomorrow, Monday, that would be the 5th. Yes, Monday, the 5th of July. All construction will be open. They changed it around from just the government construction. I'm glad for that because I was wondering what was the scientific basis for only the government construction opening, and being the cynic I am, I was suspecting it had something to do with some kind of contract business going on. So I'm glad that they can allay my fears and reopen all construction. But as with everything, there's room for improvement. I can understand the criticism that the opposition lays on the government when they speak about planning, because this wasn't well planned. The construction sector, the nature of construction. I was speaking to someone I know in the construction sector, and they were telling me about their company. They do surfacing of walls, okay? And they were speaking about the materials that they have. They usually bring it in themselves, but since the lockdowns, they haven't brought in any. And the company that they would usually, if perchance they didn't have any in stock, the company they would go to source their materials from, that company has also been closed for the last 2 months or so. So that company doesn't have the material. So where are they going to get the material to just start from Sunday? An announcement on Saturday to start an entire industry like the construction industry on Monday isn't a well planned out thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I am sure that not all, but the majority of those in that sector will be very happy that it is open. Even with the logistical problems, they would solve it on the go. They would be happy for it. But it's really not good planning. I'd hope that when we're looking forward to seeing restaurants open and the rest of the economy reopening, it wouldn't happen like as of midnight is the guideline to closing things. You could say as of midnight and close something. That still isn't good planning, but that is still more feasible. To try to do that as of midnight and reopen an entire industry is insane, and it will not work. It will not work for the majority of industries, and you may frustrate people, and you would cement yourself as being a bad planner. We already have in this government's week, during this COVID-19 situation, in recent times, on their bad planning record, we have the vaccine rollout disaster that for the first 3 days were complete disasters. The lines and crowds that were created were counterproductive to the entire idea of countering COVID-19. And it took them 3 days before they decided to meet to really organize this. Thankfully, that is going better to the plan that they are executing now. But hopefully, as we reopen, there will be some better planning. That's my request. So on the list of things that are reopening is all construction, hardwares, quarries, and I am suspicious that some protest action may have been involved in stimulating the government to this decision, because there was some protest by some truckers I can't remember which day that was. I believe Friday. They staged a protest, and that's the thing when you're talking about shutting down the economy and shutting down different sectors and the industries. They don't affect one thing. You don't shut down one individual store or one individual sector and it's just there and it's just the workers and the individuals involved in that sector affected. No, it involves an entire different sector. So construction has tagged onto it. The quarries, because all those trucks that go speeding up to the quarries every morning to fill their loads of aggregate and return it down, that has to be used by people in the construction industry. So if no one is working in the construction industry, then no one will be working in the trucks, and then no one will be working in the quarries, and then no one will be working in the whole feeder industry that feeds into the quarries. All the cooks, all the small stores, all the people who would be selling drinks, all of that will be brought to nil. So hopefully it can all pick back up from Monday, and a lot of people would be able to regain their livelihood and return themselves to a much more comfortable position. It's interesting though that we're seeing these industries that are going to be reopened in a hurry on Monday. Not that I'm complaining, don't get mistaken with the hurry word. I'm sure that those in the industry are very happy for the reopening. But it's interesting that that is being opened with the announcement only happening Saturday and it's reopening Monday, while the airport reopening and the border reopening was announced several weeks ago. So they gave them enough time to plan. So they respected them enough to give them enough time to plan, which is, I guess, a good thing in that, and it would allow, hopefully, for some better actions to happen as the borders and flights reopen. But there are some interesting little things to figure out even in that. With Caribbean Airlines set to resume flights to New York, to Canada, to Miami, we're seeing that the opening is in sight. But there are some interesting things that are still creating some problems. Tobago wants more time before international flights resume. Tobago will not accept international flights when the country's borders reopen in mid-July to international travel for nationals and vaccinated non-nationals. The island has reportedly asked for a little more time, but there was disagreement as to who exactly made this request. It goes something like this. The minister in the Ministry of the Prime Minister, Mr. Stuart Young, he was having a walkabout in the airport. He was asked about Tobago and their reopening. He said that Tobago requested more time for their reopening. Now, on that note, if you watched my Tobago self-governance video, you could see why Tobago would want some self-governance. If there are some criticisms in Trinidad right now about the planned border reopening, and people are saying that how are we going to reopen the borders when we're seeing there are these new strains swirling around outside there? It's putting us at risk. So now if per se Tobago has a majority of that view, maybe the Tobagonians would like that. They have the power to decide that. And therein lies some of the value of self-governance. But anyway, even in this case, it wasn't widely known who exactly made the request, because Stuart Young said that someone in Tobago made the request, but when the Tobagonians were asked, they said it wasn't them. Tobago's Secretary for the Division of Health, Wellness and Family Development, Tracy Davidson Celestin, told Newsday that's a request made by the hotel sector, not Tobago. The borders will be open, but some of the hotels, I suspect, may not be ready. Whatever flights are willing to come, will come. But that's the Tobago House of Assembly official statement. That's what they say. They threw the blame over on the hotels. But when asked, the hotel said it wasn't them either. But Chris James, president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association, denied that his association asked for more time to prepare for reopening of the borders. He told Newsday, "We have not been involved in any discussion, so we couldn't have made that request. We are waiting for discussions with anybody willing to have it. And we don't want any delays for the reopening. We have said several times that we need a standing committee for tourism, and this is exactly the reason we need it. I've been asking for that for 6 months, probably longer." So the guy out in tourism, the hotel and tourism sector people said it wasn't us either. So the minister said it was Tobago. Tobago House of Assembly said it wasn't us, it was the hotel sector. The hotel sector said it wasn't us. So who exactly in Tobago wants that delay? And would the delay happen? I'm not sure exactly how ready our borders are to be reopened. I'm not up and close inside of that industry, so I don't know the intimate details of it, but I hope we really are ready. Stuart Young promises all will be ready for borders reopening. And that's a good promise to make, but where's the evidence of it? Do you see any evidence of it? If you haven't liked the video yet, feel free to click that like button right now. That's if you like the video. If you don't like it, comment and tell me what you don't like about it. Or feel free to comment and tell me what you think about these stories that I'm talking about here. Do you think that we'll be ready for that border reopening in mid-July? Stuart Young believes that we will. Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, has given a commitment that all systems will be ready and in place for the reopening of borders in 2 weeks. The borders will reopen from July 17th only to nationals and vaccinated non-nationals. So, in case you aren't informed of that yet, both unvaccinated and vaccinated nationals will be let in. If you are unvaccinated, you would have to remain in 14 days of state quarantine that you will have to pay for. and at the 7th day you would receive a PCR test. By the way, you would have to enter with a negative test also. But on the 7th day in quarantine, you will receive a PCR test, and after 14 days, if you are still negative, you would be allowed to leave. If you are a vaccinated national, you would be allowed to enter. If you are a vaccinated non-national, you would also be allowed to enter. Now, some of the difficulties that may be arising out of this is that how do you differentiate between vaccinated and unvaccinated people? And herein is where the touchy topic of vaccine passports arise. And I don't think that it is a mistake that they aren't informing the population yet about exactly the measures that may take place and how this would be done. I saw on Twitter that an app creator, he was showing one of the apps that he offered to Caribbean Airlines, offering them a mobile solution for the vaccination worries and knowing who is vaccinated. The app basically works with a barcode. The barcode would have an ID number with it that would be synchronized with the Ministry of Health's information. It wouldn't contain your personal information if it is scanned by someone else. You would have the app on your phone and you would be able to identify in the app what information you would allow to be shared. It's interesting. I'd like to see how it functions, if it can function effectively in real life, and if they aren't using that, if they aren't using an app, exactly what would be used to allow people to know the vaccination status. And as we reopen, I think that is going to be a very pertinent thing moving forward. How do you think that we'll solve such a problem? That's another thing to comment and tell me what you think. How do you think we'd solve this problem? And this is a problem that would create some other branch problems as we create solutions for it. Because think about this. Who are the people who are the majority of the unvaccinated? Or who are the people who will remain the majority of the unvaccinated? That would generally be, if we're being honest, be honest about it. Very likely that would generally be the less educated and the poorer people within a society. And then if you have measures in place in your society that is going to, as it will, it may seem like it rewards vaccinated people, but the idea is just to allow vaccinated people to carry on with their lives, while unvaccinated people would have an impediment in their way for carrying on with their regular life. Then you'd see what is going to happen there. There would be a class difference happening. The educated and wealthy would have the vaccines and would be able to carry along with their lives, while the unvaccinated, the uneducated, and the less wealthy may have that difficulty. I'm not sure that that is how the divide is going to be, but as far as I see it, the vaccinated versus unvaccinated divide is already along those lines. And there's also a racial line it is divided along, but in Trinidad I don't think that that racial line is as obvious, but in countries where there's white and black difference, you're seeing a racial division along being vaccinated or not being vaccinated. And again, if you have a racial line dividing vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and you reward or allow the vaccinated to carry on with their lives while putting an impediment in the unvaccinated way, you could imagine how that would turn out and what the conclusion of that matter would be. I hope that it isn't just another situation where 50 years down the road we're looking back at this present moment and we're thinking, wow, we should have done things differently. Look at the problems we created by what we did. I hope that the planners, those that are looking to put things in place, that they'd be looking ahead, far enough ahead to see these problems and hopefully plan to allow us to be able to divert some of them. What do you think? Don't forget to like the video if you haven't liked it yet, and do click that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. I'm very close to 500 subscribers. It's a small number, but I feel good about it, especially considering that I only started somewhere like 4 months ago. It's going great for me. I'm enjoying it. Are you? See you again tomorrow in the next video at 10 a.m.